All right, everybody, welcome to the Gildre Spotlight podcast. Today we have a breathwork specialist. He leads multiple trips to Scandinavia and Norway. His name's Aaron James Yager. Aaron, super excited to have you on the Gildre Spotlight podcast. If you can let our listeners know who you are, what you do, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. It's been great getting to know you and Brian as well, and being a part of the couple of the speed networking events, which is really cool. So, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Aaron James Yager. I live in Utah. Lived in Austin as well. Been in the kind of tech business scene for a while. So my start, I kind of like to start with my origin story, if you're okay with that. Like it kind of like builds on top of everything else. I'm really blessed. I'm really honored to have had an incredible set of parents and grandparents. My grandfather, Gideon D. Hill Jr., was my best friend in the whole world. So one day I had a burning desire. As a kid, nine and a half years old, living in Wilmington, Delaware on the East Coast, I wanted a cool stereo. And you remember the stereos back in the day that was like a boombox you could carry it with you and the speakers could detach, and you had the CD player, the double deck, right? So you could record your own stuff. I was like super techie. I loved music and I loved technology. So I had this Crutchfield magazine. Those of you from the East Coast that are around my age probably know about this magazine. It's like a Sears catalog or whatever. Found the stereo I wanted. I knew that if I went to mom and dad, I'm gonna have to do chores, do work. Like I'm not gonna get away with it. But if I went to Mimi and Pop, I went to my grandparents, I could put some childhood persuasion to work and get my way. So I thought. So I took the magazine to my grandfather. And if you can picture in your mind, imagine a scene where there's like a beautiful leather chair and a grandfather like full of white hair, tall guy, 6'5", sitting down with me. And I was explaining him, hey, I really want this stereo. Here's why. Here's all the cool benefits and features. Well, what he did, instead of saying yes and said, yeah, I'll go ahead and buy that for you, or no, he reflected back a few weeks earlier when I was in his library. Now, my grandfather had a library of like floor to ceiling, right? Like just one of those mahogany like bookshelves, like books are full of it, or inside of every nook was like planned out and intentional, and he had all this different, the encyclopedias and all that. So I just came in as a curious kid and I said, Grandfather, Pop, why do you have so many books? Why do you have some of the books that look the same? What are you doing in here? And he literally sat down with me for 2 hours. Given I was 9.5 years old, he sat down, pulled some different books out. He said, these are the books that I use and I read to gain knowledge. I need knowledge to make more money, to be better at my job, to be a better father, all that. We had all these books out. He was just sitting with me for about 2 hours, which is actually pretty good for a 9.5-year-old to sit that long. And he just was imparting knowledge on me and just wisdom. And he was always really good at that. He was just such a great soul to be around. So fast forward back to when I went into my stereo, he reflected back on that day and he said, hey, I'm going to challenge you. I want to dare you to do something. I will buy you that stereo if you really want. I'll buy you that one or one better if you work with me on a little program. If you read a book, listen to an audio tape, or watch a video from something from my library each day for 30 to 45 minutes, write down 2 paragraphs about what you learned that day, then at the end of the week, we'll talk about it and reflect on it. You do that for 1 year, I'll buy you that stereo or better. So he challenged me into a supplemental, outside of school, outside of soccer, outside of friends, like this supplemental learning, Kaizen, as I like to call it. The Japanese call it Kaizen, getting a little bit better every single day, right? Improving. And then he saw that I had a burning desire. Entrepreneurs, we all have a burning desire for something, whether we were young or not, whether it's money and scorekeeping or a passion or an impact on the planet. He saw that earlier. He challenged me to go dive into that. And I shook his hand and said yes. Now, I didn't realize the concept of a whole year, but what he did for me, what my parents helped discipline me with, was making sure I got my 30 to 45 minutes a day, reading, listening to audio. This is Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. This is Tony Robbins. This is Psychology of Winning by Dennis Waitley. A lot of those greats in those books, how to think creatively, emotions, got into NLP early on, neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy when I was 18. Like, it just opened up a world of self-development for me, and hence also the world of entrepreneurship. So I've never had a job. I started early with, ironically, I went to AJ's odd job service, doing odd jobs for, in the neighborhood. But yeah, it inspired me. And so that's why I like to start with that origin story, is like, that's how I got my entrepreneurial start, was through my grandfather challenging me to be better to do that program.
No, that literally is giving me goosebumps kind of hearing that origin story just because I think it's such an amazing and beautiful story that, your grandpa saw that, you had the vision of getting that amazing speaker, but he also kind of slid in, you're gonna have to learn and earn it.
Yeah,
And
what a
it
gift.
sounds like you consistently, you kept on doing that even after the year, right? Like you kept on,
Oh yeah.
learning, you're an everyday learner. And actually just kind of a question comes to me, why did you after that year long, you obviously got the speaker. Why did you continue being a lifelong learner? Why did you was it just a habit that you got into?
Hmm. Good question. I think once I got my burning desire for that stereo, my God, I was so proud of it. What he had just done is like shown you how you can get a goal achieved. That process of have it, work for it, stick with it, and make that happen. I think that what it did was I may not have understood all of the information going into my brain consciously, but unconsciously it was all going in there. And so it was starting to spark new ideas, new business ideas. Oh, how can I think differently at this time? And so instead of going getting a job at McDonald's when I was in high school, I had a computer company. I was like, it just sparked something new inside of me. It sparked something deep inside of me. And I didn't come from a line of entrepreneurs. My dad and my grandfather both worked for DuPont. People have heard of DuPont, I'm sure, but I come from an agricultural side. But my grandfather was a big proprietor and a big supporter of entrepreneurship. He thought that they were the unsung heroes of the world. Entrepreneurs are, and I really love that, the unsung heroes of the world, the ones that put in the time, put in the effort, put in the money, put in the risk to make things happen. And I think that's a really cool thing to celebrate. But I can't, man, I don't know exactly how to answer that question. Just that I think it was ingrained in me at that point, and I could just see, oh, well, here's the other thing. My grandfather stayed my mentor, of course, and he was always a few steps ahead of me. So whenever I would have at new ages, we all had different problems, from dating problems to business problems to motivation to you're growing up, you get acne, you get fear, you get all these different things come up. He would generally always have a book, an audio, or a conversation. We kept that going. I would keep reading things he gave me, and then we would reflect on it almost every week. And at one point he moved away and we were thousands of miles apart, so we did it over the phone. So I think that was it. I had a mentor. I had a mentor that was consistent, that I could reflect off of, that I could be honest with, and that would always be guiding me towards where I was headed. He was never like telling me where to go, right? He just knew that, oh, this is coming up for you. Here you go. Here's a cool article for you to whatever, and we would reflect on it.
He's the Sherpa, taking you, up the
Yeah,
mountain, so to speak.
yeah,
Right. So it sounded like you started your first computer business in high school. What made you just obviously, the spark for, interest, the spark for learning, getting the speaker, but what was your first business that you started, that computer business, and why?
yeah. So after AJ's Odd Job Service, after I was doing that, it was more like computers. Well, actually, it was odd jobs. Then it was garden. It was fruit and vegetable delivery service, because I grew up near a farm. My dad was running a research field station. We had all sorts of different delicious foods, so we go pick them and go sell them at the to the neighborhood. And I would use my little cute brother and sister, who were 4.5 years younger, to go to the door, ring the door, be my salespeople. Because they're not gonna. If you have a cute little kid that's at your door, you're gonna answer the door. So, but then we got into technology. I really had this burning desire, another one, to build my own computer system. I loved working on my dad's 486 DX22 Dell computer. Every time he would leave town, I'd go play on it, install games, mess with it. And I just happened to like pick up technology. I could talk to it almost. I was just like computer whisperer. I just kind of knew innately what to go do. But of course, I also read books, and I was taking courses and getting certifications in computers. So I built it called Impact Technology. I built a computer business that I had all through high school, a little bit of junior high into high school, and all the way through high school. So that's what I did for work outside of school, outside of soccer, outside of dating. That entrepreneurial venture was really that big one that got me excited, and I saw value in it because my principal even would bring me in to do his PowerPoint slides or to train some of the staff, and we built out like computer labs in at different high schools. Then, as nerdy as this sounds, this is super nerdy. So I was like jock, but also nerd at the same time, and I bridged
Yeah.
those worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good balance. I ran the, what was it called? The Tech Knights Society. So we were the Bullard Knights. like
Hmm.
a night on a horse. And it was a tech night society. So by evening time, I'd be playing soccer and all that stuff. And then the next day, like at noontime, we'd have our technology meetings about computers and what we're building next and all that stuff. So I had a good balance between the two. But that computer business made me good money in high school. It was really cool to have like that kind of lifestyle and that kind of money. But also, I was very different than most everybody. Most everybody was not entrepreneurs, right? People would ask what I do, and I get passionate, talk about it. And some other kids thought I was like cocky or mean or stuck up. Or it's like, no, I'm just talking about what I'm doing, and just so happened, that was the difference when I learned like I'm a little different. I think differently, and that's okay. And those were some of the conversations I had with my grandfather because I didn't necessarily lose friends. There were certain people that I wasn't going to be friends with because they just were really judgmental or thought I was a certain way. So I don't know if any other entrepreneurs had that growing up. I'm
Right.
44 now. I was born
Right.
in 81, but that's what I experienced.
No, I think, I mean, even just in general and in high school, I think a lot of people are very self-conscious and you kind of end up being like who you spend, most of your time with. And I think spending time with people that aren't really going after it, right? And you're going after something, you just, you can't really, there's nothing to relate with because one person's actually like achieving stuff and the other person's just complaining. So it's like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah.
Preview to the world, right?
Right, right,
Preview
right.
to the world.
Right,
Yeah.
right. There's obviously a lot of different scenarios in that situation, but just in general, like for myself, I don't like to spend time with anybody that is not doing anything. I just only like to be around positive people that are actually making a positive change. Just because other than that, it's just a waste of time. But not to sound like, anyway, back to you, Eric. So so after high school, you went to university. Did you go to university? Did you major in
Yeah.
anything? What did you study?
So I went to Fresno State, California State University, Fresno, and I studied entrepreneurship. Graduated high school, had a great time, but like realized. So I came from my grandfather was a PhD, my dad was a PhD, my uncle was a PhD. I came from a family of the men were very well educated and had those degrees. And I got a couple of years in to college, and they had an entrepreneurship program. I ended up winning the business plan writing and presentation contest. That was cool.
Curious, what
And
was the business? What was
what was
the for that you
it
won?
was actually a expansion of the business I was already running. So I already had my tech company. So I did like a new it was a perfect little pitch, right? You're like pitching to people, and it was for this new software thing I wanted to design and bring into my company. So it was already existing and all that. So I was obviously further ahead than most of the people.
Mhm.
And so I won that one, but that was a really cool experience. And then I was like literally school was getting in the way of work, of making money. And I was like, well, why am I repeating myself here in school? We just graduated. We're doing the kind of the same stuff for a couple of years. It was like, it didn't make sense. So I actually told my parents and my father I was going to leave college, and I did, that I would promise to go back, but I didn't. So I did like 2, 3 years, and then I just didn't finish. So I'm the only one in no, my brother, I think my brother followed suit.
Right,
My
right.
younger brother, didn't finish either.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want to. I mean, when I went to university, I thought that it was kind of some of it was fairly arbitrary and redundant. I mean, just gen ed stuff, and it teaches you how to learn. And if you already know how to learn, which it sounds like you've been learning a lot since you've been 9.5 years old, like it's in my opinion, I definitely think university is just it's a stamp of credibility for a
Sure,
person.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
obviously, you went the entrepreneurial route, and so after you left university, you started entrepreneurship. Did you pursue the same business that you were working on in high school, or did you start a totally new business? And if you did, what was that?
Yeah, it was it kind of merged with the time. So instead of building computers and wanting to be the Michael Dell of that and the hardware, it was turned more into software and web design, right? At that time, web design studios were all the rage, building that up, and
Early
so I turned to
2000.
web.
If you're born 81, it's
Yeah,
like 2001, 2002, that time.
exactly. Like web's coming on, all of a sudden, like not e-commerce isn't really a thing yet, but people are kind of starting to make money online, and you got Google, all these things coming out. And so it was a web design company. I just turned it into Impact Tech, Impact Web or something. I just changed the title and hired some guys that were doing design stuff where I was good at sales and marketing and the creative side, but then like I love coding and I did know how to code, but then I noticed like I would rather be in front of people than in front of the computer. So I
Mm,
understood code, so I could think, talk, and like understand the techies. But then
mhm.
I'm the people person, so I was able to bridge the gap between the two. So I would take on clients and companies where I could talk the talk, but then help them get results. But I wasn't the best at the coding and all that. I just knew what I wanted to get done. So that's where I realized my place there, or my unique abilities as I was growing up was with people, not so much tech, but understanding tech and being able to relate that. So that business turned into some programming, did web design for a while. And then I got into what kind of, there were two going on at the same time. Through, after high school, through college, and then having that web design company, I built Life Force Enterprises, which was a publishing business. I basically wanted to be like a young Tony Robbins. So I went out and published a few different books, wrote and published my own books. One of them was Life Advice 50. I interviewed 50 different entrepreneurs from all over the place and like built a book, kind of like a chicken soup for the soul almost. And
Like Choice
then,
or something like that by Tim Ferriss.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Kind of conglomerating the information and tiling it, getting it out there. Built an email list back in the day. Had a mindzone.net, which is where you could buy like my favorite books that I was had on Amazon, just an Amazon store. And so I had that always going. So I was speaking, I was getting asked to go speak places. I was learning to be a better speaker and not really a coach, but like I kind of balanced between the web design and building like a mini self-development company for a while. So I was publishing different books and different articles and really getting my name out there as a speaker at that time.
Wow. So just taking a step back. So right when you left university, you started your business, and I'm assuming you already had revenue from your past business. How did you strategically think about making that pivot into web design?
Well, I think it came to me. It was like clients were asking for it because
Wow.
I had
So you
the
already had
patience with like,
right. You already had.
I had clients where we were doing in-person training on their computer. We were, you know, building their computers for them, getting them all set up, going in an office and setting up the network and all that. And they would just be like, they wouldn't have a website, or they were asking, "Hey, do you build websites?" Like I was a yes guy. I said, "Yeah, sure." I had built websites, but I was kind of like, it came to me, so I'm like, "Yeah, sure. How much you want to charge?" I don't know, $800.
Yeah.
Just kind of throwing stuff out there. As entrepreneurs, all of you listening, you probably just made shit up
Right, right.
on the fly at points, and then kind of figured out how to do it later. And but at least I knew a little bit about it, and I knew a little bit, not really Google Analytics, but I knew there was some other tech I was working on in the background of how to, how to put this stuff up. I think I was using Dreamweaver at the time. I
Hmm.
don't know if you remember Dreamweaver, long time ago.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it just came to me, and I adjusted to the times. Less people were asking for hardware stuff. Software was hot, and so it just came my way.
Got it. And so as you're building and growing, kind of how did the kind of public speaking and coaching, how did all that come into fruition? Obviously, you have a successful business, you're growing it, you're publishing, books, you have a website. Did people reach out to you and were like, hey, like you seem like you'd be a fantastic fit to lead this event? Or how did the speaking engagements come to be?
So early on, my really good friend Jason Dorsey,
Is
I
it
met
related
him
to
when
Jack
he was
Dorsey?
18. No, different Jason Dorsey. One of the best speakers in the world. The guy's incredible. He's a little bit older than I am, two or 3 years older than I am. We had connected because I saw a website that where he was writing a book, and um, he was meeting with all these really top people, and I was like, wow, this guy's really cool. And I reached out to him, and he introduced me to the world more of other people doing speaking or other entrepreneurs doing cool stuff. So like we would hear about it here and there. We didn't have like entrepreneur magazine and stuff like this back in the day. There was a couple little magazines here or there, but young entrepreneurship wasn't really a thing. It wasn't really talked about.
Hmm.
It was starting to become, but he introduced me to a lot of people. And then he introduced me to a guy named Michael Simmons, who did something which was like young entrepreneurs going around and speaking at different college campuses. So once I got kind of tied into that group, and they heard that I spoke, and I'd done like a couple like book projects, we all became friends, and we traveled around together to go to these different college campuses to speak as like a speaking team kind of a thing. We'd all have our different stuff, our different like message, And that really kicked it off. Once I saw others doing it, like, oh, cool, there's other people like me that think like me and are running other businesses, and or like Jason's business was speaking. So he learned how to like charge money for it and do all that. So really it was Jason and that group of people that really leveled me up as an entrepreneur and as a speaker on how to get that out there and kind of turn that into a business. So there was speaking, there's writing and publishing books, figuring that whole thing out. And then I think there's coaching as well, because at 18 or 19, I got my first, so I got my hypnotherapy coaching certification at 18 and 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept getting different certifications. So I'd always been training as a coach. I'd always had the ability to coach, and I wanted to coach and help young people, but they don't have money. I ran into some problems of like working with kids and stuff was wonderful, not kids, but like people a little bit younger than me who wanted to do what I wanted to do. Their
Right.
parents had money. So it was like kind of hard sometimes. So I had to focus on, or I'm going to build businesses and I'll do coaching a little later on. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a learning curve of like kind of flowing between, well, what is a coach and who am I coaching? But when I'm young, what adult's going to listen to me? There's a
Right.
lot of worthiness stuff, a lot of early emotional stuff I had to go through
Mm-hmm.
to find my place in the world as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as a speaker.
And did you always want to be a coach, and did you kind of know, down the line that it will be supplemental to your entrepreneurial endeavors?
Yeah, I did. Once my grandfather, so if you can imagine my grandfather being the oldest in the room and me being the youngest in the room, he would take me to webinar, like, sorry, not webinars, that didn't exist, like kind of masterminds, but like more, I don't know, speaking events, where there's other entrepreneurs, marketing events, like Ted Nicholas. I went to the Ted Nicholas Millionaire Maker Seminar back in the day. Anytime there were cool events that pop up and I could travel to, he would take me. So I got to be around adults. I learned how to be around adults and sell myself and be in the same room and like talk at their level. So that leveled me up a lot just by being around adults. I got more comfortable being around adults than I did kids my own age in many ways. So I think that's what really helped me step more into that, just being around those people. And once I saw what coaches do, for some reason inside of me, I think it's because it's part of my dharma, holding space for people, whether they're crying or upset or angry. Like I was able to, not take on their emotions, but like be okay with it and sit with it, and then just comfort them and love them and shine light on them and help them feel better. And as I learned more about psychology, more about hypnotherapy, more about the unconscious mind, because we're not taught this in school, definitely not taught it in business school, how to utilize your unconscious mind. And that's where it really started understanding, wow, there's things I'm learning here that aren't really talked about and are very, very powerful.
So what are some of those things? I'm not an expert at hypnotherapy. I actually don't even really know. I mean, I know what hypnosis is, I know what therapy is, but I don't know. I can kind of understand what hypnotherapy is. If you can tell our listeners, what exactly is hypnotherapy, and also what are kind of some of those secrets that, you've been
Yeah,
uncovering in mind and consciousness?
sure. Well, I think one of the best places to start there, I'll start with the second question, really. It's more, most people on average have, let's say 50, 60, 70,000 thoughts a day. And most of the time, people have the same thoughts every single day, right? They get in this automatic um, kind of mode, this autopilot mode. That autopilot mode is based on your unconscious mind, all the programming you've had since the time you were born, and with your parents' stories, TV, news, everything going in. And with that being, if you keep having the same thoughts every single day, or at least the majority of them, you in the present moment are creating your future. So entrepreneurs are the ones that strike out on their own, that think differently, that just kind of got out of that mold early on for some reason, whatever story there is there. But the real secret and the interesting part about what hypnotherapy is that we're dealing with the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind, which there were some books back then that talk about it. Now it's a lot more known because scientists also didn't know about what was going on there. But when our conscious mind, like 5% of our abilities is in the conscious mind. You and I are talking right now consciously, right? That means on a brain wave level, we're in beta. Okay, so there's beta, alpha, theta, delta. Delta is when you are completely asleep and you are just out. Theta is where the real magic happens, the recoding, the reprogramming ability here. Alpha is a beautiful, relaxed state when you close your mind and you get into meditation and you can like relax and let go of fear and all that. And then beta is back to where you and I are to-do lists, calendars, all that stuff. Most people wake up in the morning, drink coffee, caffeinate themselves, and go right up into beta, stress, do all the things, and then they're exhausted and they crash down, right? But the interesting thing that people don't know is we're all always in some state of hypnosis. All it means, this is, and let me define this. We're not talking about stage hypnosis, Chris Angel, giddy up and quacking like a, clucking like a chicken kind of a stuff. That's all stage hypnosis. The movie thing where they're, doing this with a clock. That's all movie stuff. That's all stuff that's yes, it's done, but it's not really what I do at all. And it's for show. It's for showmanship. Everybody has a different level of susceptibility. Some people can say, "Oh, well, yeah, you can't hypnotize me." But yes, everyone has a level of being able to be hypnotized. But what I mean by we're all hypnotized at one point in time is we're all going through those different brain waves: beta, alpha, theta, delta. We're all waking up and going to sleep. It's just part of our circadian rhythm. So you're constantly going through those. All hypnotherapy does is what we're doing is we're inducing that on purpose at any time to get you more relaxed. So it's like meditation with a goal. That's all hypnotherapy is. That's it. With an end result that we're looking to achieve. Instead of just mindfulness and calm, whatever. No, we're like, hey, we want to let go of fear. We want to let go of childhood trauma. We want to do, somebody got in an accident. They're fearing, being in a car during the rain because they got in a car accident that time. Okay, we can go back and reprogram all those. In our body is also, hypnotherapy is about getting in touch with the emotions in our body, the messages that are in our body. Our body and our brain work really, really beautifully together. And we're just not taught this stuff. So hypnotherapy has been around since early ancient Egyptian times. In fact, it was around early medicine. There were so much proof of hypnotherapy being able to heal and cure people of almost anything. And then some people came in that decided, it's better and more profitable to give people pills and to have something to do that. And it works faster sometimes. And so hence the big pharma started taking off. And at some point there were doctors and medical and businesses that wanted to get rid of hypnotherapy because it was so good, but it was like, it would cure the thing. And then they couldn't make money on the patients. Now I'm over explaining this, or not over explaining at a high level. I'm explaining it, but basically things were like, oh, we're not going to really support hypnotherapy anymore in the medical stuff. But it was always there for many, many years. There's so much proof on it. So something that worked really well, I really believe that we're all able to self-heal. We're all able to control our reality by our thoughts and by the thoughts that are also embedded, which are belief patterns. So based on our data, based on the way we live our life, based on our parents, based on all the experiences, that is coding us or like programming our lives to start living. If 5 to 10% is our conscious mind, then 10 to 90, 100% unlimited is our unconscious mind. That's where our real true power is. That's where our belief systems are. Our automatic nervous system. We don't have to digest our food consciously. We don't have to breathe consciously. Our subconscious mind is taking care of so many things. But what happens is its number one objective is to keep us alive, to keep us safe. And anytime we say, oh, I'm going to go make $1 billion, or I want to go do this thing over here, if it doesn't know how to do that, it's going to say, no, we're not going to do that. So your conscious mind can be really like, people love setting goals, but then they wonder why they can't set them because their unconscious mind is going this way and saying, nope, we're not going to do that. It's not in alignment. It's in conflict. So when we're in conflict, you can imagine health, wealth, relationships. If you're still showing up as a younger version of you unconsciously that doesn't understand that we're an adult, we're growing, we need to go this way, it's going to be in conflict in most of your life. And that's why entrepreneurs especially can hit walls and really hard things in their life, because a business is a perfect mirror of what's going on inside of here. So hypnotherapy, the work that I do, is all about recoding and reprogramming the mind and the emotions to be in alignment with the conscious mind so that we can go become more successful, more abundant, more impactful in the world.
Wow. That was a
Does that answer?
fantastic explanation. Yeah, no, that was a great answer. A question that came up is when you're an entrepreneur and you're in conflict with your unconscious mind, but you're trying to achieve, these huge goals, what are some practices one could do in order to get, that in alignment, your unconscious and your conscious mind into alignment?
Great question. One of the most important things is slow down, relax, breathe, do things like breath work, do things like meditation, quiet the mind. Because when we're racing around, especially when, on our earlier days, like it was hustle, we were taught hustle, 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 grind, 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 put in the hours, put on the hours. And I believe that there is an essence of that does work. And I sort of like the path of least resistance. I've learned the hard way, as I'm sure everybody could raise their hand, like they just grinded and grinded and grinded. And there's a time for that, I believe, when you're in alignment. But I think here's the way I look at it. If we can learn an easier way to do things, then why not do that? Why not learn how to get our whole body in alignment? And we don't just have our brain. We have our mind, we have our soul, we have our heart, we have our gut. These are all different brains. These are all different ways for us to, right? Intuition, right? Sometimes people like started a business on an intuition or a feeling, not just a thought. So the brain, it does manage everything and really helps us be here in this world, but there's other parts of us that can help guide us to learn to trust ourselves instead of everything outside of us, or going to these seminars and learning all these things. But we got to like go inward. So I really think 10 to 20 minutes a day of silent, still meditation, put on the headphones with the noise canceling or put in the earplugs, blindfold, and just be in stillness. Because the more that you can lean in and go into the stillness, your brilliance is inside there. The where to go next, the decision to make to hire or fire that person or that whatever, it's all inside of us. And so, yes, we go pull in data points from our team members, from our board members, from things like that. And at the end of the day, we've got to learn how to go inward and like process that. So some people are better at that than others, but I think slowing down, meditating, and being in stillness as much as possible is really good for entrepreneurs. Secondly, I mentioned like things like breath work, things like getting out in nature. Like the more that we allow ourselves to be calm outside of all the stresses of work, like don't bring your work home, like have a work-life separation so that you can actually learn how to like solve problems outside of the stress. We've really got to look at reducing stress. It's a killer. Too much stress can really cause a lot of dis-ease in our body, in our mind, in our business, and it can really mess things up. And then third, I think really going there and working with a coach, working with somebody who's a hypnotherapist, or at least trained with working with the unconscious mind, releasing any stuck emotions. I remember, there's past employees that pissed me off or screwed me over, or we've all got stories of stuff that like, man, are really, really can bring up a lot of emotion and hurt a business, especially if they lost you money or they took something from you or messed up your business, whatever. There can be a lot of emotions from that stuff. And so negative emotions stuck in the body or swept under the rug, I'll just deal with it later, starts to build up. And that also then creates a cycle of us burning out. Burning out is a huge thing, right? And I don't want to go too negative, but like for some reason we're having more and more suicides in the world. But yet there's a lot of mental health awareness stuff, but numbers aren't changing. So people aren't taking the time to really take care of themselves, and entrepreneurs especially. Like we've got people we're in charge. Maybe you're a solo entrepreneur, you've got 100 employees. It's up to us to be showing up as our best and be able to bring our best essence to that, because that's going to reflect everybody else. So I really think that the entrepreneurial journey, the unsung heroes journey, is like inward now. It's getting yourself to these masterminds that with other great people, doing breathwork, doing meditation, taking care of your body and your mind, and doing the work to let go of the stuff that is just so heavy. That all those things, all the 3 or 4 things, I think are really, really the most important for entrepreneurs right now.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Is there, and I guess it depends on the person, but as far as meditation and breath work, is there like a particular time of day one should do it? Should they do it at the beginning of the day, the end of the day? What's your typical cadence with things like that?
Great question. I love this question. Now it's a little bit different for everyone, but one of my new programs that I'm launching here actually is about learning to create first and then consume next, right? We wake up, get on the phone, do the emails. Oh crap, that's right, I didn't do that thing, tasks, all that, and go right at it. We forget, and I'm not saying this always social media, I just mean like work, like we go right to this thing. One of the most important things I learned is to wake up. I keep this thing on airplane mode. So first of all, use the best app on there, which is airplane mode. Put it on airplane mode, keep it on airplane mode. So for the first, the way you start your day really sets up your day. So I really believe that after you go to the bathroom, grab some coffee, whatever, like brush your teeth, kind of get set, and then find a place where you can sit in stillness and just connect with yourself for the day. I do some prayers. I do some different like motivational visualization in the morning, and I get my journal out and I write. It's either an email from my email list, or it's like a poem or something. I'm just like whatever's coming to me, I just get used to creating and getting it out. Sometimes it's on my computer, but everything's always on do not disturb or airplane mode. So like getting in the habit of being connected with self and creating whatever that is. It could be for the business, but it also could just be something cool you're writing down or journaling and being grateful for, whatever it may be. Creating first, and then like from 15, 30 minutes to even 2 hours, then get online, then get into your stuff. But give yourself that time in the morning with the journaling, the meditation, the mindfulness, so that then you can really jump into your day at a certain point. And I think all it takes is like saying, I don't start till 9:30. I get up at 6:30. Here are the things I'm going to do, work out all these, and like take care of myself first, so then I can jump in, as opposed to jumping right into other people's agendas. That's just it. There's so many other people's agendas. We keep putting everyone else first. We forget ourselves, and that means we're out of integrity with ourselves. When we're out of integrity with ourselves, we do not show up as our whole self, as our best self for everyone else. So I think it's about reversing and like being selfish, saying, what do I need to do to become the best version of myself today? And what are those, I call them non-negotiables. So I'm not the best at doing exactly the morning routine exactly. I'm not that detailed. I'm a manifestor in human design. I got stuff coming all over there, but I do have my non-negotiables. And as long as I do those non-negotiables in my morning, I feel great. When I don't, I don't. I'm not operating as good. I just know it. So I think hopefully that answers your question. I think that's the
100%
best
did.
way to answer it.
Think I couldn't agree more with everything that you're saying. And actually, I myself, I'm going to start doing the, getting up even a little bit earlier. I like to go to the gym, and then do some breath work and meditation. And I think it just makes you feel better and have more energy and just more optimal throughout the day, um, rather
Yeah,
than doing,
it
you know,
is. And it's so like breath is so, it's such a simple thing, but it's so overlooked and we're not taught. Like, for example, if you want to wind down for the day, if you want to wind down, it's different breath than activating yourself for the day, right? So you want to breathe in shorter and out longer to go down,
so,
regulate it, deregulate
right.
yourself, to
So
relax.
just for just to start out, this is the morning breathing technique.
No, that
This
would
one.
be the evening one. Like if you want to wind down and like calm your mind, or if you're just high stress at any time, you want to breathe in through your nose shorter and out longer. So
Hmm.
like, so I'll do 4 in, hold for 2, and then out 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's do it together. Go longer. You do 5 minutes of that.
It's really
It just
nice.
regulates you. It gets you down. Now some people do box breathing where they do, 4, 2, and 7. Then we switch it. Then we're going to do longer inhale and shorter exhale. So, right, longer inhale. So you're more intense to activate yourself, and then letting it out. So you're just switching it. But we're not taught this kind of stuff. You do that for 5 minutes, and you do a little bit more intensity, or you do holotropic breathing, which is through your mouth. You do that for a little while, all through your mouth. You're going to engage your body, and you don't need. I mean, I am drinking coffee.
Yeah.
It's you literally. I have, and I could even send this as free to the members or whatnot. But it's like this energy session where we're going into hypnotherapy. We're getting into a state, and it's got music, it's got like beats, and it's got like a way for you to ignite the energy that's already inside of you. So we can do all this stuff through just simple breath. So learning how to breathe as an entrepreneur is one of the best things you can learn to do. And it doesn't mean you're doing breathwork sessions all the time. It just means making it a practice for yourself, knowing how to keep and adjust your state. And again, lowering that stress. It's going to lower the cortisol. It's going to like help you just make better decisions.
It's amazing how important breath work is. I used to do hot yoga, and at the end of hot yoga, we'd go like, and you just would feel so much more energy and so much more vibrant with everything, and just experiencing a lot. I mean, you can just comprehend a lot more. It seems like when you have, everything together, and know how to do the breath work. But Aaron, I really appreciate your time, and this was an
Yeah.
amazing session. I actually feel just a lot better for my day, and I feel a lot more energized, and I feel like I know some practices to do to keep me optimal. But is there any, words of wisdom or any final thoughts that you have for our members? Actually, one thing I forgot to mention. What is I know you have a Viking Norwegian excursion. If you can let the listeners know what that is, that would be fantastic.
I would love to. Some of you might have noticed I have these runes on these are Viking runes that are tattooed on my body. So I love ancient wisdom. I love travel. I love adventure. I have created an adventure that is not like your typical mastermind. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on masterminds, going to them, meeting people, and I bless them. They're awesome. And there was something missing for me. They kind of got repetitive, kind of got the same thing. And I was always in a hotel, but I really wanted to be outside. So I flipped the script. I created an event where we're doing all my favorite things, which is travel, adventure, and in digging into like initiation, rites of passage, learning how to shed the old you and step into a new version of yourself. Because we're all going through all these changes in our life. But if we look at initiation, which has been in our history for a long, long time, and has frankly been lost in many ways, except for some of the cultures that are still doing it. Boys becoming men, girls becoming women. There would be initiation with the elders. There would be initiation in the villages. We don't have that as much anymore. So what I wanted to do is create, I call the Viking initiation, or awaken the Viking. This is about going back and learning about ancient wisdom, learning about the runes, the frequencies, the meditations, the practices, the balance of masculine and feminine, and applying that to our lives and our businesses while having a digital detox, putting the phone down, doing breath work and meditation in these awesome caves, rowing a Viking ship together, dressing like a Viking, learning how to bow and arrow, learning how to shoot bow and arrow, hunting and fighting, learning how to shield wall, learning how to cook like a Viking. Literally just like getting your hands dirty and going back into the primal sense. It really awakens the DNA in a unique way. So I take men and women entrepreneurs out for 8 days and 8 nights in one of the most beautiful fjords in the world in southern Norway, down near Bergen. It's a place called Gudvangen, which stands for the Valley of the Gods. And we go have a ton of fun. And we also do hot seat coaching. We do the meditations. We do the morning cold plunge in the fjord and the sauna. And the food's delicious. Like I like to kind of mix the luxury with the getting dirty and all that. If you can imagine a bunch of entrepreneurs learning how to defend from an action, throwing each other around. It was actually really, really fun to see men and women just like getting after it, and like learning some really cool new things in a way that gets us out of the office, gets us away from technology, and just get a full boot reset. That's what I do at my event with entrepreneurs. I got one coming up here in May 3rd through the 11th. And then I'll be doing more of those kind of events. So if you want to learn, take your sales team, your C-suite team, or other group of entrepreneurs. It's a really great way to build bonds. I mean, when else are you going to go row a Viking ship together? No, not many people have done that before in a place where actual Vikings were. So I think it's really fun to go back to the roots, and that's why I created that event.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like in order to grow, you have to look at the past. You have to look at, all these traditions that have made us, who we are as humans. And I think that sounds like an amazing event. Super fun. I'll put all the information in the show notes as well. So anyone who's listening, if you're interested, May 3rd through the 11th, there's a, awesome biking um, experience event with Aaron. But Aaron, any final words of wisdom you'd like to share to our listeners?
I think I'm just going to repeat the one thing that I talked about earlier, which is, again, slow down. Like sometimes we get what I've learned I'm at 44 now. It's like there's times where I even still will see myself as an entrepreneur. I got to do this. This has to happen. I need to do this. All these needs and have tos and all this stuff. And then I said, wait, hang on. I just take some breaths and I slow down and I reconnect. And I realize that rush, that stuff is still even programmed with me sometimes. So I have to go back and work on that. And I think it's a really good practice for us to slow down as entrepreneurs, align our soul, our mind, our heart, and our gut, and just really look at what am I really looking at trying to achieve here, and how do I align myself so I can show up as my best version. I think that's it. It's like slowing down and getting in touch with yourself through breath and through meditation are the words of wisdom I want to impart today.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think so many people are moving fast nowadays, and when you move too fast, you kind of miss the good parts in life anyway. So, Aaron, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a
Thanks for having
fantastic
me.
on the Gildre
Thank you,
Spotlight.
buddy. Bye, everybody.